Rock legends went from platinum hits to dumpster fires fast. We're talking about albums so baffling, so tone-deaf, they left fans asking, is this a prank? Legendary icons like Bob Dylan, Queen, and even the mighty Rolling Stones. No one is safe. Join us as we take a look at the 10 rock albums that were so bad, fans were furious. Oh, and stick around till the end for our bonus pick. If you've heard it, your ears may still be bleeding. Number 10. Yes. Tormato, 1978. Yes, we're the prog rock wizards who once took us to the mountaintops of musical complexity. Then they dropped Tormato, and fans were like, are we being punked? Released in 1978, Tormato was a chaotic mess of half-baked ideas, odd lyrics, and synthesizer overload. The production felt muddy and rushed. The cover art was literally a tomato splattered on a man's suit. Symbolic? Maybe? Lazy? Definitely. Even die-hard Yes fans couldn't defend this one. One critic called it self-indulgent mess disguised as progressive art. Ouch. And the cherry on top? The band started turning on each other right after. Internal fights, creative clashes, and the beginning of a long, slow decline. This wasn't a Yes moment, it was more of a why. Number 9. David Bowie, Never Let Me Down, 1987. Never let me down. David Bowie, the chameleon of rock, has reinvented himself more times than most artists change socks. But in 1987, he didn't transform. He tripped. Never Let Me Down was Bowie trying to ride the pop rock wave with glossy synths, cheesy hooks, and lyrics that felt like first drafts from a bored intern. The result? A confused, overproduced mess that felt more like a corporate product than a Bowie album. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were betrayed. Bowie himself even said, "It was my nadir, my lowest point." When the artist disowns the work, that's when you know it's rough. Never Let Me Down? More like never let me listen to this again. Number 8. Elton John, Victim of Love, 1979. Let's get one thing straight. Elton John is a legend. He gave us hits like Rocket Man, Tiny Dancer, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. But in 1979, he took a hard left turn into the disco inferno and got burned. Victim of Love is a disco album. That's right, no piano, no original Elton songs, and no soul. Just 35 minutes of generic, lifeless grooves that sounded like background music at a failed roller rink. Elton didn't write a single track. He didn't even play on it. The man basically walked into the studio, sang over pre-made disco tracks, and left. Just like you'll expect, critics shredded it. Fans were mortified. Rolling Stone called it a disco atrocity. Oof. And Elton? He later said he regretted the whole thing. So did we, Elton. So did we. It was safe to say the only thing this album was a victim of was Elton's own career momentum. Number 7. Queen, Hot Space, 1982. I wonder where we're gonna stick it. Queen. You had it all. Operatic rock, stadium anthems, Freddie's voice from the heavens, and then you dropped Hot Space. Let's be real, Hot Space was Queen's attempt to go funky and dancey. The result was a polarizing, synth-heavy roller coaster that made rock fans clutch their vinyl copies of A Night at the Opera and horror. Sure, Under Pressure hits hard, but the rest of the album? Awkward. Body language sounded like Queen was trying to soundtrack a weird European fashion show on acid. One critic said it best, "It's not just a departure, it's an escape attempt." Even Freddie later admitted the album didn't pan out like he expected. Number 6. Kiss, Music from the Elder, 1981. World without heroes is like a If you ever wanted to hear what happens when a face-painted, fire-breathing rock band tries to go full Tolkien, look no further than Kiss's most ambitious and disastrous album, Music from the Elder. Let's rewind. Kiss had spent the late 70s building a reputation on pure, no-frills party rock. They were loud, dumb, and fun, on purpose. Then 1981 hit, and suddenly they were telling a fantasy story? With orchestras, medieval themes, a concept album about a young hero saving the world? What in the Dungeons and Dragons was going on? The label didn't even know how to market it. The band didn't tour for it. And fans? They were straight up confused. Even Paul Stanley admitted later it was a big mistake. Number 4. Bob Dylan. Empire Burlesque, 1985. Let's talk about Bob Dylan. Folk god, lyrical genius, and the guy who essentially soundtracked the 60s counterculture. But by 1985, he was wearing a sparkly blazer and crooning over synth beats like your uncle's wedding DJ. Empire Burlesque was Bob Dylan's attempt to embrace a more contemporary sound. Unfortunately, it ended up feeling out of place, as though he was trying to fit into a world that didn't quite suit him. His distinctive poetic voice was overshadowed by over-the-top drum machines, flashy sax solos, and an excessive amount of digital production that seemed better suited for television commercials than a Dylan album. Fans were stunned. One critic called it a desperate grasp at relevance. Ouch. The album cover alone, featuring Dylan in full mid-80s glam, was enough to give boomers heart palpitations. It wasn't just the sound, it was the disconnect. Dylan's deep, introspective lyrics clashed violently with that plastic, overproduced backdrop. It was like reciting Shakespeare over a casino keyboard demo. Number 3. Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead. Dylan and the Dead, 1989. We promise we're not picking on Dylan here, but when you team up with the Grateful Dead, known for their trippy jams and loyal cult following, you'd expect some magic, right? Nope. Dylan and the Dead is widely considered one of the worst live albums of all time. The concept sounded like an amazing idea. Two legends, one stage. But what fans got was a lethargic, meandering mess. Dylan mumbled his way through the lyrics like he was half asleep, and the Dead, they were barely holding it together behind him. One critic likened it to a garage band rehearsal where nobody knows the song. Harsh but fair. Fans felt that both Dylan and the Grateful Dead weren't fully invested, with some even suggesting the collaboration was more about making a quick profit than delivering a meaningful musical experience. It wasn't energetic, it wasn't creative. It was like watching two tired titans slump through karaoke night. Number 2. Lou Reed, Metal Machine Music, 1975. You know how most albums have songs, choruses, a melody? Lou Reed looked at all of that and said, nah, how about 64 minutes of shrieking guitar feedback? Metal Machine Music isn't just a bad album, it's an audio endurance test. Released in 1975, this double album contains no lyrics, no rhythm, no structure, just relentless high-pitched distortion and electronic screeching that sounded like a robot being murdered in slow motion. It's industrial noise before industrial noise was even a thing. But make no mistake, this was not artistic innovation. This was war on the ears. Lou claimed it was avant-garde. Critics and fans suspected it was a massive middle finger to RCA Records. Some thought it was a joke, others were convinced it was a prank on the critics. Concert goers were furious. Record stores reportedly had sky-high return rates. And the craziest part was the RCA disclaimer on the album itself, to warn listeners. Lou Reed later said he loved the album. Fans, not so much. Number 1. Bob Dylan, Self-Portrait, 1970. And here it is, the crown jewel of confusion. The album that made one of rock's greatest poets sound like he wandered into the wrong studio and just went with it. Self-Portrait wasn't just a flop, it was a betrayal. Released in 1970, this was Bob Dylan's infamous double album of half-baked covers, awkward instrumentals and warbly vocals that sounded like outtakes from a drunk sound check. Gone were the piercing insights of the times they are a-changin'. Instead, we got Dylan covering Simon and Garfunkel's The Boxer, while harmonizing with himself, off-key. The backlash was instant and brutal. Grell Marcus, writing for Rolling Stone, opened his review with a now iconic line. What is this shit? Yep, that was the first sentence. Dylan fans felt genuinely betrayed. Some even thought he was intentionally sabotaging his career. And he kinda was. Dylan later admitted the album was a deliberate attempt to alienate his worshippers and escape the messiah complex fans had built around him. Still, intentional or not, this album hurt. It cracked the foundation of Dylan's credibility and launched one of the most dramatic fan uprisings in rock history. And finally, our bonus album. Bonus. Yoko Ono. Plastic Ono Band, 1970. Before you start typing furiously in the comments, yes, we know, Yoko Ono is a polarizing figure in rock history. Some say she's a genius. Others claim she single-handedly broke up the Beatles. But one thing's for sure, Plastic Ono Band is an album that nobody saw coming. Released in 1970, this avant-garde masterpiece, depending on who you ask, was a brutal sonic assault. Like taking a jackhammer to your eardrums while being serenaded by a banshee in labor. The album featured experimental sounds, shrill vocalizations, and dissonant noise, all wrapped in Yoko's intense, raw, and often baffling performance. It was art, we guess. At the time, fans didn't know whether to cry or scream in confusion. Lennon himself loved it, of course, but the general public, not so much. In fact, it was called one of the most unintelligible albums of all time, by many critics. It was so far ahead of its time that even the most open-minded listeners couldn't get a grip on it. If you want an album that truly challenges your relationship with sound and your sanity, Plastic Ono Band is the perfect soundtrack to that existential crisis. Whew, we made it! From Lou Reed's Feedback Symphony to Dylan's unholy trilogy of flops, these albums prove that even legends can miss hard. Sometimes the risk is worth it. Other times it's a flaming train wreck fans never forget. We've explored some of the most epic rock album fails of all time. But now, we want to know, which of these albums left you the most shocked? Which one do you think deserves to be crowned the worst of the worst? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're dying to hear which album made you want to throw your headphones out the window. And hey, if you enjoyed the video, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe, so you never miss any of our videos.